The air conditioning in courtroom 3B couldn't quite keep up with the Houston heat, even in March. Dorothy Hayes sat perfectly still in the second row, her hands folded over the small leather purse in her lap, the same purse she'd carried to church every Sunday for the past 12 years. She wore her navy floral dress, the one with the little pearl buttons running down the front. Nothing fancy, nothing that screamed, "Look at me." Just a simple dress that smelled faintly of lavender from the sachet in her closet. Across the aisle, her husband of 40 years looked like he'd just stepped out of a GQ magazine. Robert Hayes, Bobby to everyone who knew him, wore a charcoal Tom Ford suit that probably cost more than Dot's first car. His silver hair was slicked back perfectly, and that Rolex Daytona on his wrist caught the fluorescent light every time he moved his hand. Next to him sat Amber Rose, 26 years old, blonde hair that definitely came from a bottle, and a pink Birkin bag that Dot knew cost somewhere north of 30 grand. She'd looked it up one night, just out of morbid curiosity. The girl was reapplying her lipstick like she was getting ready for a photo shoot, not a divorce hearing. "Mrs. Hayes?" Dot looked up. Tyler Davidson, Bobby's attorney, was sliding a stack of papers across the table. He was young, maybe 35, with that cocky smile of someone who thought he was the smartest person in any room. "This is pretty straightforward," Tyler said, tapping the papers with his pen. "You'll receive the 2015 Camry and $2,000 a month in spousal support. Mr. Hayes retains the marital home, Sullivan Transport LLC, and the vacation property in Destin." He leaned back in his chair. "I gotta say, Mrs. Hayes, this is a generous offer, considering you haven't worked in 15 years. I'd advise you to sign." Dot didn't respond immediately. She looked down at the papers, then over at Bobby. He wasn't looking at her. He was looking at his phone, scrolling through something, probably texting Amber even though she was sitting right next to him. "Mrs. Hayes?" Tyler pressed. "Do you have any questions?" Dot picked up the pen. It was a cheap Bic, the kind you get in a pack of 12 at Walmart. She'd signed mortgage documents with pens like this, birthday cards, permission slips for their daughter's field trips. "No questions," she said quietly. She signed her name on the dotted line. Dorothy M. Hayes. The M stood for Marie, her mother's name. Her hand didn't shake, not even a little. Bobby finally looked up from his phone. For just a second, maybe less, something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or confusion, like he'd expected her to cry or beg or throw the papers in his face. But Dot just smiled. A small, gentle smile. "Thank you, Bobby," she said. "I pray God blesses you and your new life." Tyler blinked. Even Amber stopped messing with her lipstick to stare. Judge Rodriguez, a stern woman in her 50s who'd probably seen every type of divorce drama imaginable, raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. She stamped the documents with a heavy thud that seemed to echo in the quiet courtroom. "This divorce is finalized," Judge Rodriguez announced. "You're both free to go." Bobby stood up quickly, already reaching for Amber's hand. Tyler gathered his papers, looking pleased with himself. As they headed toward the door, Dot heard Amber's voice, high and chirpy. "Baby, I can't believe how easy that was. She didn't even fight for anything. God, she really is just some poor old lady, huh?" The courtroom door swung shut behind them. Dot sat there for another moment, alone except for the court reporter who was packing up her equipment. Through the small window in the door, she could see her daughter Sarah standing in the hallway. Sarah was 42, a software engineer at Microsoft, and right now her face was streaked with tears. Dot stood slowly, smoothing down her dress. She picked up her purse and walked to the door. In the hallway, Sarah rushed toward her. "Mom." "Not here, honey," Dot said softly. "Let's go home." As they walked past Bobby and Amber at the elevator, Dot heard Bobby laugh at something Tyler said. That laugh. God, she used to love that laugh. Deep and warm, the kind that made you want to laugh along even if you didn't get the joke. Now it just sounded hollow. The elevator doors opened. Dot and Sarah stepped in. As the doors slid closed, Dot caught one last glimpse of Bobby, arm around Amber, looking like a man who'd just won the lottery. What Tyler Davidson didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Dorothy Hayes had been an accountant for 40 years. She'd balanced books for small businesses, filed taxes, caught discrepancies that even IRS auditors missed. And accountants never forget a number, especially not $5,247,832.19. Dallas, Texas, summer 1984. The trailer was a 1978 model, 32 feet long and narrow enough that you could touch both walls if you stretched your arms out. But it was theirs. Dorothy Marie Brennan, 25 years old, newly married and wildly in love, stood in the tiny kitchenette making sandwiches for Bobby's lunch. Outside, she could hear him tinkering with the truck. Not their personal truck, the Peterbilt. A 1979 model with over 200,000 miles on it, rust spots on the fenders, and a temperamental engine that Bobby swore he could fix himself. They'd bought it with the $15,000 loan that had Dot waking up at 3 a.m. some nights, doing math in her head, trying to figure out how they'd make the payments. Bobby came through the door, grease smudged on his cheek, grinning like a kid on Christmas morning. "She's purring like a kitten now," he said, washing his hands in the sink. "We got that run to Oklahoma City tomorrow. 3,000 pounds of auto parts. Clear $500 easy." Dot handed him a sandwich. "After fuel and tolls, that's more like $350. "Look at you, always counting pennies." Bobby kissed her forehead. "That's why I married you, Dot. You keep me honest." She smiled. "Somebody's gotta." They ate lunch sitting on the steps of the trailer, watching the sun beat down on the dusty lot where they parked. Bobby talked about his dreams. 10 trucks someday, maybe 20. A real office. Employees. Hayes Transport printed on the side of every rig. Dot listened and nodded, doing calculations in her head. If they saved this much per month, if they got 3 good runs per week, if they didn't have any major repairs, it could work. It really could. Fast forward. 1992, trucks now. Bobby drove one. They hired a driver named Pete for the other. Dot worked the phones, finding loads, negotiating rates, keeping the books on a Tandy computer they'd bought used. Sarah was 3 years old, napping in the playpen next to Dot's desk in their actual apartment. Nothing fancy, but no longer a trailer. 1995 8 trucks. A small warehouse in South Dallas. Dot quit her part-time job at Walmart to work full-time for Hayes Transport. She was good at it, really good. She could spot a bad contract from a mile away, knew which clients paid on time and which ones would jerk you around for 90 days. Bobby was the face of the company, the charmer who could talk a shipper into giving them a contract over beers and a steak dinner. But Dot was the engine. The spreadsheets, the payroll, the insurance, the tax filings, all Dot. 2,545 trucks. Revenue of $12 million a year. They bought their first real house. 4 bedrooms, pool in the backyard, in a neighborhood where the lawns were always green and the garbage cans were the nice kind that matched. Sarah got accepted to UT Austin for computer science. Bobby cried when she got the letter. Actual tears. "We did it, Dot," he said that night, holding her in their big king-sized bed. "We actually did it." "We did," she agreed. 2015 120 trucks. A 3-story office building with Hayes Transport LLC in big letters on the front. Bobby on the cover of Texas Business Monthly. Revenue pushing $40 million. Bobby started coming home later. Not drastically at first. Just an hour here, 2 hours there. Board meetings, he said. Client dinners. Networking events. Dot believed him. Why wouldn't she? They'd built this together. They were a team. 2018, Sarah called from Seattle, where she was working at Microsoft. "Mom, are you and Dad okay?" "Of course, honey. Why?" "I don't know. He just seems different. When I talk to him on the phone, it's like he's distracted. And you sound tired." "I am tired," Dot admitted. "But we're fine. Your dad's just busy with the expansion into Louisiana." She didn't mention that Bobby had changed the passwords on the bank accounts, or that he'd hired a financial advisor, some guy named Dylan Wright, without even telling her. Or that when she asked about the quarterly taxes, Bobby had waved her off with "Dylan's handling it now, babe. You don't need to worry about that stuff anymore." 2019, Bobby forgot Sarah's 40th birthday party. Forgot completely. Called at 9 p.m. saying he was stuck in traffic on I-10. Dot saw the Facebook post the next day. Bobby at some resort in Cancun, arm around a blonde girl young enough to be Sarah's little sister. When she asked about it, Bobby laughed it off. "That's Brittany. She's a client's daughter. We were talking about a potential shipping contract." "Jesus, Dot, you sound jealous." She wasn't jealous. She was uneasy, but she pushed it down. 2021, their 38th wedding anniversary. Bobby gave her a Vitamix blender. Dot stared at the box. A blender. For 38 years of marriage. You're always talking about making smoothies, Bobby said, barely looking up from his phone. Figured you'd like it. Thanks, she said quietly. That night, after Bobby fell asleep, Dot sat in the kitchen with a glass of wine, something she rarely did. She thought about the girl in the trailer who'd made sandwiches and dreamed of 10 trucks. She thought about this woman who'd worked 2 jobs and kept books on a Tandy computer. She wondered when, exactly, she'd become invisible. 2023. Dot tried to log into the QuickBooks account. Password didn't work. She called Bobby. Oh yeah, Dylan updated all the security stuff. Don't worry about it, babe. He sends me monthly reports. I'd like to see them. Why? You don't trust me now? Bobby's voice had an edge to it. It's not about trust, Bobby. I built this company too, and now it's built. You can relax. Enjoy life. Go to your book club or whatever. Dot hung up the phone and sat very still. For 40 years, she'd been the one counting pennies, catching mistakes, keeping them honest. And now Bobby didn't want her to count anymore. That's when she knew. Not about Amber, not yet, but she knew something was wrong. Very, very wrong. November 17th, 2023. The sound of Bobby's truck pulling into the driveway woke Dot up. She glanced at the clock on the nightstand. Past 2 in the morning. Again. She heard him stumbling through the garage door, knocking something over, sounded like the recycling bin, then swearing under his breath. The kitchen light clicked on. Dot stayed in bed. She'd learned not to confront him when he came home like this. Drunk Bobby was either weepy or mean, and neither version wanted to have a real conversation. 10 minutes later, she heard him climb the stairs. He didn't come to their bedroom. Instead, his footsteps went down the hall to the guest room. The door closed. Dot lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling. At 6 a.m., her alarm went off. She got up, showered, dressed in her usual routine. Khaki pants, a blue blouse, comfortable shoes. She went downstairs to make coffee. Bobby's phone was on the kitchen counter. He never left his phone lying around. Never. That thing was practically glued to his hand. Dot looked at it. The screen was cracked, probably from whatever he'd knocked over in the garage. She picked it up. No passcode required. The screen just lit up. She almost put it down. Almost. But then she saw the notification at the top of the screen. Wells Fargo Bank. Final notice. Her hands went cold. She opened the email. Dear Mr. Hayes, this is your final notice regarding the past due balance on your primary mortgage for the property located at 1247 Oak Ridge Drive, Houston, Texas, 77024. You are currently 4 months past due. Total amount owed, $37,428. If payment is not received within 10 business days, foreclosure proceedings will begin. Please contact our loss mitigation department immediately. Dot read it 3 times. 4 months past due. On a house they'd owned for 18 years. A house that should have had maybe 5 years left on the mortgage, if that. She scrolled through his emails. More notices. Chase Bank. Home equity line of credit. Past due Bank of America. Business loan. Default notice. IRS. Final notice before levy. Her chest felt tight. She sat down at the kitchen table, still holding Bobby's phone. 40 years of bookkeeping. 40 years of balancing accounts and filing taxes and catching discrepancies. And now she was looking at financial carnage. She did what she'd always done. She started calculating. Dot grabbed her laptop from her office, the small room off the kitchen that used to be her command center, before Bobby pushed her out. She still had some old passwords saved. Most didn't work anymore, but a few did. QuickBooks from 2021, her last backup before Dylan took over. She compared the 2021 numbers to the notices on Bobby's phone. Primary mortgage, 2021, $142,000 remaining balance. Primary mortgage, 2023, $1,247,000. He'd refinanced, taken cash out, over $1 million. Home equity line of credit, 2021, didn't exist. Home equity line of credit, 2023, $850,000 outstanding. Business loan, 2021, $300,000. Normal operating line of credit. Business loan, 2023, $2,100,000, secured by both the business assets and their personal home. Dot's hands shook as she wrote down the numbers. Primary mortgage, $1,247,000. Home equity, $850,000. Business loan, $2,100,000. Subtotal, $4,197,000. But that still wasn't everything. She could feel it. She went through his text messages. Most were deleted, but the phone kept some data cached. She found a thread with someone named Dylan W. Bobby. Sent the payment. Same as always. Dylan W. Got it. $15,000 to the Austin account. Austin account. Dot searched Austin in his emails. Found wire transfer confirmations going back 2 years. $15,000. Every single month. To an account under the name D. Hayes. She felt nauseous. That was $360,000 a year. For over 2 years. She did the math. $720,000 minimum. Probably more. Add that to the other debts. $4,917,000. But where was the rest? She searched Amber in his emails. Found apartment lease agreements. A luxury condo in River Oaks. $8,500 a month. For 18 months. That's another $153,000. Found credit card statements. Jewelry purchases from Tiffany & Company. Trips to Cancun, Vegas, Aspen. Designer bags, shoes, watches. Rough estimate, another $180,000. Grand total, $5,250,000. Give or take a few thousand. Dorothy Hayes sat at her kitchen table as the sun came up, surrounded by 40 years of memories in a house that was about to be taken away, looking at numbers that shouldn't exist. And she didn't cry. She poured herself a cup of coffee, added cream and sugar, the way she always did. Took a sip. Then she picked up her phone and called the one person she knew could help. Eleanor? It's Dot Hayes. Are you free for lunch today? I need a favor. No, not a favor. I need a lawyer. A really, really good one. St. Catherine's Catholic Church, November 20th. The church basement smelled like old books and coffee. Dot sat at a folding table across from 3 people who were about to help her do something she never thought she'd do. Eleanor Walsh was 72 years old, 5 feet tall, and the most terrifying divorce attorney in Houston. She'd been Dot's friend since the 90s when they'd both worked at a small accounting firm in Dallas. Eleanor had gone to law school at night while raising 3 kids. Now she had a reputation for making rich husbands cry. Okay, Eleanor said, spreading out papers across the table. Let me make sure I've got this straight. Your husband has accumulated roughly $5 million in debt, most of it secured against assets he thinks he's going to keep in the divorce. He doesn't know that you know about any of this, correct? Correct, Dot said. Next to Eleanor sat Father O'Brien, the parish priest. He was 58, Irish, with kind eyes and a thick accent that got thicker when he was upset. Right now, he looked pretty upset. I can't believe Bobby would do this, Father O'Brien said. I've known him for 15 years. He sits in the 3rd pew every Christmas and Easter. Twice a year Catholic, Eleanor muttered. Figures. The 3rd person was Detective Ray Kowalski, Eleanor's brother-in-law. He was 50 years old, retired from Houston PD, and now worked as a private investigator. He had the kind of face that looked like it had seen some stuff. Mrs. Hayes, Ray said, before we go any further, I need to ask, are you sure you want to do this? Because once we start digging, we're going to find things, and those things might hurt. Dot looked at him. Detective, I found out 3 days ago that my husband has a son I didn't know about, has been supporting a mistress in a luxury apartment, and has put our entire life's work into debt so deep we'd need a submarine to reach it. I'm already hurt. I just want to make sure I survive it. Ray nodded. Fair enough. Eleanor pulled out a yellow legal pad. Here's what we're going to do. It's called the Silent Lamb Strategy. I didn't name it. One of my mentors did. But it works. She drew a simple diagram. Step 1. Bobby thinks you're scared, defeated, and willing to take whatever scraps he throws you. We let him keep thinking that. Step 2. We draw up a settlement agreement that looks like Bobby's winning. He gets the house, the business, the Florida condo, everything. You get the old car and a small monthly payment. Step 3. Hidden in that agreement is one little clause. It says that whoever receives an asset also receives all the liabilities attached to that asset. Dot blinked. So if he takes the house, he takes the mortgage, all $1.2 million of it, plus the home equity loan, plus the business debt, everything. Father O'Brien leaned back in his chair. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Exactly, Eleanor said. By the time Bobby figures out what he signed, it'll be too late. The divorce will be final. He'll own everything and owe everything. You walk away clean. Is that legal? Dot asked. Completely. As long as all the debts are disclosed, which they will be in the fine print, and as long as Bobby has legal representation, which he does, then it's his responsibility to read what he signs. Not our fault if he's too arrogant to do it. Ray cleared his throat. I'm going to start following him. Bobby and this Amber girl. See what else we can find. What about the Austin account? Dot asked. The payments to D. Hayes? Eleanor and Ray exchanged a look. That's the part that might hurt, Ray said gently. Mrs. Hayes, have you ever heard Bobby mention anyone named Daniel? Dot's stomach dropped. No. Who's Daniel? Ray pulled out a folder. Inside was a printout from a public records search. A driver's license photo of a young man, maybe late 20s, dark hair, blue eyes. Eyes exactly like Bobby's. Daniel Hayes, Ray said. Born April 1996. Mother's name was Linda Carson. She passed away in 2015. No father listed on the birth certificate, but I did some digging. Bobby's been sending child support payments to Linda since Daniel was born. After Linda died, the payments went directly to Daniel. Dot stared at the photo. Bobby has a son. Yes, ma'am. For 27 years he's had a son and I didn't know. Yes, ma'am. Dot set the photo down carefully, like it might burn her fingers. She looked at Eleanor. I want to do it. The silent lamb. All of it. Eleanor reached across the table and squeezed Dot's hand. Honey, are you absolutely sure? Because once we go down this road, I'm sure. Dot's voice was steady. For 40 years, I've made sure Bobby didn't destroy himself. I balanced the books. I caught the mistakes. I kept us honest. But I'm done catching him, Eleanor. It's time I let him fall. Father O'Brien blessed himself with the sign of the cross. God forgive me, but I'll help however I can. Eleanor smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a woman who'd made a career out of taking down men who underestimated their wives. All right then, Eleanor said. Let's go to war. Dallas, Texas, November 25th. Sarah Hayes lived in a modern apartment in Dallas's design district, all glass and steel and minimalist furniture. She opened the door before Dot could knock. Mom, Sarah's eyes were red. She'd been crying. Hi, baby. They hugged in the doorway for a long moment. When they finally pulled apart, Sarah led her mom inside and poured 2 glasses of wine without asking if Dot wanted one. I know, Sarah said. Dot sat down on the sleek gray couch. You know what? About Dad, about Amber, about Daniel. Dot's hand froze halfway to her wine glass. How long have you known? Sarah sat down next to her. About Amber? 8 months? About Daniel? 6 months? About the debt? 4 months. Sarah, I know. I should have told you. I wanted to tell you. But I kept hoping Dad would fix it. That he'd come to his senses and her voice cracked. I'm so sorry, Mom. How did you find out? Sarah pulled out her laptop. I'm a software engineer, remember? I'm good at finding things online. She pulled up a LinkedIn profile. I was looking for someone with our last name for a project. Just idle curiosity. And I found him. Daniel Hayes, 28 years old, lives in Austin, works as a high school English teacher. She clicked to another tab, a 23andMe DNA results page. I ordered a test. So did he. Turns out Daniel was looking for family too. We matched at 50% shared DNA. That means we're either full siblings or half siblings. And since I know Mom didn't have any secret kids, she tried to smile, but it didn't quite work. You've met him, Dot said. It wasn't a question. Once, 3 months ago, I drove to Austin. We met at this little coffee shop near the university. Sarah scrolled through her phone and showed Dot a picture. Daniel Hayes was tall, over 6 feet, with Bobby's blue eyes and easy smile. But there was something gentle in his expression, something thoughtful that reminded Dot of Sarah. What's he like? Dot asked quietly. He's nice, Mom. Really nice. He teaches 9th grade English at an underfunded school because he believes in public education. He drives a 10-year-old Toyota. His apartment is smaller than mine, and I'm pretty sure his furniture is from IKEA. Sarah laughed, but it turned into a sob. Dad's been sending him $15,000 a month for years, and Daniel's been saving most of it. For his future kids, he said. For their college fund. because his mom worked 3 jobs and still couldn't save anything. Dot felt tears building behind her eyes, but she blinked them back. Did Daniel know about me? Yeah, Dad told him there was a wife, but that you two had an understanding, that you knew about him but preferred not to be involved. Sarah's voice turned hard. Daniel believed it until I told him the truth. He cried, Mom. This grown man sat in a coffee shop and cried because he thought his dad's wife had rejected him his whole life. Now Dot did cry, quiet tears that slid down her cheeks and dripped onto her shirt. I'm sorry, Sarah said. I should have told you sooner. No, Dot wiped her eyes. You were trying to protect me. I understand. What are you going to do? Dot took a sip of wine. I'm going to let your father have exactly what he wants. The house, the business, the condo, everything. Sarah looked confused. But Mom, you deserve... He can have it all, honey, along with the $5 million in debt that comes with it. Sarah's eyes went wide. Holy shit. Language, Dot said automatically, then laughed. But yeah, holy shit. Sarah grabbed her mom's hand. Please tell me you have a good lawyer. The best, Eleanor Walsh. The Eleanor Walsh? The one who took down that oil tycoon in the divorce last year? That's the one. Oh, Dad is so screwed. Sarah started laughing, a slightly hysterical sound. I mean, I'm sorry he's my father and I love him, but Mom, he really is screwed, isn't he? Completely. They sat there for a moment, drinking wine, and then Sarah asked the question Dot had been dreading. Did you ever love him? Dad, I mean. After everything he's done, did you ever really love him? Dot thought about the boy in the grease-stained shirt who'd kissed her on the steps of a trailer, the man who'd cried when Sarah got into UT Austin, the partner who'd worked 18-hour days beside her to build something from nothing. Yeah, Dot said softly. I loved him. For 40 years I loved him. But somewhere along the way he stopped loving me back. Or maybe he never stopped loving me. He just started loving money and status and feeling young more. I'm sorry, Mom. Don't be. I'm not. Dot stood up, smoothing down her pants. Your father made his choices. Now he gets to live with them. Sarah stood too. Do you want me to testify? At the divorce hearing? I've got emails, texts, evidence. No, this isn't about revenge, baby. This is about letting him face the consequences of his own actions. Nothing more, nothing less. You're a better person than I am. I want to watch him burn. Dot pulled her daughter into another hug. He will burn, sweetheart, but he'll light the match himself. As Dot drove back to Houston that night, she thought about Daniel, a boy, no, a man now, who'd grown up thinking his father's wife had chosen not to love him. Tomorrow she'd call Ray Kowalski, have him set up a meeting, because Dorothy Hayes had lost 40 years to a man who'd lied to her. But maybe, just maybe, she could gain a son who deserved better. When the Silent Lamb Sharpens Her Teeth, January 8th, 2024. Davidson & Associates law firm Tyler Davidson's office looked exactly like what you'd expect from a lawyer who drove a BMW and wore shoes that cost more than most people's rent. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Houston. A desk the size of a small car. Framed degrees from SMU Law on the wall. Bobby sat across from him, looking fidgety. His knee bounced up and down, a nervous habit Dot had seen 1,000 times over 40 years. So how long is this going to take? Bobby asked. I told Amber we'd have this wrapped up by Valentine's Day. We've got a trip to the Bahamas booked. $25,000 for a week at this resort. All inclusive. The works. Tyler leaned back in his leather chair. Bobby, I can make this fast, but you gotta trust me on the strategy. We're gonna use what's called a waiver of financial discovery. What's that in English? It means your wife agrees not to dig into the finances. No depositions, no forensic accounting, no discovery process. In exchange, we offer her something that looks fair, the Camry, $2,000 a month. She takes it, signs the waiver, and boom, done in 60 days. Bobby nodded. Dot's not stupid, though. She used to be our accountant. She'll know. Bobby, listen to me. Tyler leaned forward. Your wife is 65 years old. She hasn't worked in 15 years. She's got no income, no prospects, and no leverage. Her lawyer, if she even gets one, is going to tell her to take the deal because fighting it would cost more than she'd win. He smiled. Trust me, I've done this 100 times. The wife always takes the deal. And the debts? Tyler waved a hand dismissively. We'll handle those. Once the divorce is final, we can restructure, maybe file Chapter 11 for the business, protect your personal assets. I know people. Bobby looked relieved. Okay, yeah, let's do it. Tyler drafted the paperwork that afternoon, 23 pages of legal jargon. On page 14, section 7C, paragraph 3, buried between clauses about retirement accounts and vehicle titles, was this: Robert Hayes shall assume, accept, and be solely responsible for all marital liabilities, debts, encumbrances, mortgages, liens, loans, and financial obligations of any kind associated with, secured by, or in any way connected to the assets received in this dissolution of marriage, including but not limited to any undisclosed obligations existing as of the date of execution. Tyler read it, thought it looked standard, and moved on. He had bigger things to worry about, like the text message that just came through from Amber. "Baby, I miss you. When can you come over?" He glanced at Bobby, who was scrolling through his own phone, oblivious. Tyler smiled and typed back, "Tonight, 8 p.m., usual place." 2 days later, Eleanor Walsh received the divorce petition and settlement offer via certified mail. She sat in her home office, a converted bedroom filled with law books and case files, reading through it with a red pen. When she got to page 14, she laughed out loud. "Oh, Tyler," she said to herself, "you cocky little bastard. You have no idea what you just did." She called Dot immediately. "They took the bait," Eleanor said. "Bobby's lawyer sent over a settlement agreement with exactly the clause we need. He wants you to waive financial discovery in exchange for the car and spousal support. So what do I do? You say yes, through me. I'm going to send him an email that makes me sound like I'm barely qualified to practice law. Something like, my client accepts these generous terms. No pushback, no negotiation. We want Tyler to think he's dealing with an idiot." Dot was quiet for a moment. "Eleanor, this feels wrong, like we're lying." "Dot, honey, we're not lying about anything. Every debt is going to be disclosed in the final paperwork, right there in black and white. If Bobby and his fancy lawyer are too stupid or too arrogant to read what they're signing, that's on them, not us." "Okay," Dot said. "Do it." Eleanor crafted the email carefully. "Dear Mr. Davidson, after careful consideration, my client, Mrs. Dorothy Hayes, accepts all terms of the proposed settlement. She appreciates Mr. Hayes's generosity and wishes for this process to be completed as quickly and amicably as possible. She is a woman of faith and simply desires peace. Please send final documents for signature. Regards, Eleanor Walsh, Esquire." She read it over, cringing at her own words, then hit send. Tyler's response came back within an hour. "Excellent. We'll have final docs ready by end of week. Glad we could resolve this without drama." Eleanor showed the email to Dot when they met for coffee the next day. "Without drama," Eleanor read aloud. "Oh, sweetie, the drama hasn't even started yet." January 15th, 2024. Eleanor's office. Ray Kowalski had been tailing Bobby and Amber for 6 weeks. He sat across from Dot and Eleanor, spreading out photographs and documents like he was laying down a royal flush in poker. "All right," Ray said. "Let's start with the good stuff, or the bad stuff, depending on how you look at it." He slid over a photo of Amber Rose entering a medical building. "Women's Health Associates," Ray said. "Amber's been there 4 times in the last 6 weeks. I made some calls, can't get medical records, obviously, but my buddy's wife works the front desk. Amber's seeing an OB-GYN. She's pregnant, about 15 weeks along." Dot's expression didn't change. She'd already grieved the husband she thought she had. This was just confirmation. "Bobby thinks it's his baby," Ray continued. "He's been bragging about it to his buddies at the country club. Says he's going to be a dad again at 68. Going to do it right this time." Ray's expression darkened. But here's where it gets interesting. He pulled out more photos. Amber and Tyler Davidson. At a restaurant. At a hotel. In Tyler's car. "This affair started way before Bobby even met Amber," Ray said. "Best I can tell, Tyler and Amber have been together since last September. She was working as a cocktail waitress at this upscale bar downtown, the kind of place where rich guys go to feel important. Tyler's a regular there." Eleanor leaned forward. "Wait, so Tyler introduced Bobby to Amber?" "Bingo. I talked to some folks who work at the bar. Tyler brought Bobby there for drinks one night, made a big show of introducing him to Amber. 2 weeks later, Bobby's renting her a luxury apartment in River Oaks." "Jesus Christ," Eleanor muttered. "Tyler set up his own client." Ray nodded. Gets better. Tyler's got gambling debts. About 180 grand to some very unpleasant people. The kind who break kneecaps when you don't pay. He needed money, fast. So he found the perfect mark, a rich older guy going through a midlife crisis. But there is no money, Dot said quietly. Bobby's broke. Right, which Tyler figured out about 2 months ago when he actually started going through the financials for the divorce. So now he's pivoting to plan B. Ray pulled out bank statements showing wire transfers. Tyler's been skimming from Hayes Transport's operating account. Little bits here and there, nothing Bobby would notice while he's distracted by his shiny new girlfriend. Total take so far is about $285,000, sitting in an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. Dot felt sick. Bobby doesn't know? Bobby doesn't know shit, Ray said bluntly. Sorry for the language, but it's true. The man is so far up his own ass he can't see daylight. Eleanor tapped her pen on the table. So what's the end game? Tyler gets the money and runs? That's what it looks like. I've got word he and Amber have been looking at property in Costa Rica. No extradition treaty with the U.S. for financial crimes under $500,000. They'll vanish the second this divorce is finalized. The room was quiet for a moment. What about Daniel? Dot asked. Bobby's son. What did you find out about him? Ray's expression softened. Daniel Hayes, 28 years old, English teacher at Travis High School in Austin. Makes about 48 grand a year. Lives in a small apartment, drives a 2014 Corolla. Every month when Bobby's payment comes through, Daniel takes about 3 grand for living expenses and puts the rest in a college savings account. Not for him, for the kids he hopes to have someday. He showed Dot a surveillance photo of Daniel leaving his school, backpack over his shoulder, talking to a student. He's a good kid, Mrs. Hayes. His mom Linda raised him right, despite everything. Bobby's visited maybe 10 times in Daniel's whole life. Always made excuses. Too busy, work emergency, whatever. Daniel stopped expecting him to show up for birthdays when he was about 12. Dot stared at the photo. Daniel had Bobby's eyes, but there was kindness there. Gentleness. I want to meet him, Dot said. Eleanor and Ray exchanged looks. Are you sure? Eleanor asked. I'm sure. Bobby doesn't get to keep him a secret anymore. That boy, that man, deserves to know he has family who actually gives a damn about him. January 21st, 2024, St. Catherine's Catholic Church. Dot was arranging flowers in the sanctuary when Bobby walked in. She looked up, surprised. He never came to church except on Christmas and Easter, and it was neither. Hey, Dot, Bobby said. He looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight from foot to foot. Bobby, what are you doing here? Can we talk? Just for a minute? Dot set down the flowers and walked to one of the pews. Bobby sat down next to her, keeping a careful distance. I know things have been rough, Bobby started. And I know you probably hate me right now, but I wanted to explain. You don't owe me an explanation, Bobby. Yeah, I do. Look, Amber, she's different. She makes me feel young again. Makes me feel like I'm not just some old guy running a trucking company. Like I'm still somebody who matters, you know? Dot looked at him, really looked at him. The silver hair that he colored now to hide the gray. The expensive suit that didn't quite hide the fact that he'd gained weight. The Rolex that screamed, I'm important, to anyone within eyesight. I'm happy for you, Bobby, Dot said, and she meant it. Not because she wanted him to be happy, but because his happiness was about to cost him everything. You are. Of course. You deserve to be happy. Everyone does. Bobby looked confused. This clearly wasn't the response he'd expected. I thought you'd be angry, or hurt, or I was. For about 40 years, I was angry at all the little things. The late nights, the forgotten anniversaries, the way you stopped asking my opinion. But now? Dot smiled gently. I'm just tired, Bobby. I'm tired of being angry. Bobby reached for her hand, but Dot pulled hers away. There's something else I need to tell you, Bobby said. I've made some investments. Some of them didn't pan out the way I hoped. We might need to tighten our belts for a while, but it's temporary. I've got deals in the pipeline that'll pay off big. I just need you to trust me one more time. Dot stood up. Bobby, I've always trusted you. That was my mistake. She walked away, leaving him sitting alone in the pew. Father O'Brien had been in his office and heard the whole thing through the open door. He came out after Bobby left. You're a stronger woman than I've ever met, Dorothy, Father O'Brien said. God bless you. I'm not strong, Father. I'm just done. January 28th, 2024. Sarah's apartment. Dallas. Sarah had been working on this for 3 months, ever since she first discovered the extent of her father's debts. She'd called in favors from friends in the tech industry, hired a forensic document analyst, and spent countless late nights poring over bank statements and loan agreements. Now she had proof. She video called her mom and Eleanor at the same time. I found something, Sarah said. Something big. She shared her screen. Bank documents from Chase Bank and Bank of America, showing signature pages from 2 loan applications. These are the applications for the home equity line of credit and the business loan, Sarah explained. The ones that have Mom's signature on them. Eleanor leaned closer to her screen. Okay. Except it's not Mom's signature. It's forged. She pulled up comparison documents. Dot's real signature from their mortgage from 2005, from their will, from Sarah's college financial aid forms. See the way Mom makes the D in Dorothy? It has this little loop at the top. And the H in Hayes always has a distinctive slant to the right. The signatures on these loan documents don't have either of those characteristics. She pulled up the forensic analyst's report. I had a certified document examiner look at these. Her conclusion: the signatures are inconsistent with known examples of Dorothy Hayes's handwriting. The pressure points are wrong. The stroke patterns are different. Someone traced these signatures, probably from a signature on file at the bank. Eleanor's eyes went wide. Sarah, do you know what this means? Dad committed forgery. It's a second-degree felony in Texas. 2 to 20 years in prison. The 3 women sat in silence for a moment. We need to report this, Sarah said. Right? Dot shook her head. Not yet. Mom, listen to me. If we report it now, Bobby will lawyer up immediately. He'll claim he had permission, that it was a misunderstanding, that after 40 years of marriage we had an understanding about finances. He might even claim I knew about it, and I'm just using it for leverage in the divorce. Eleanor nodded slowly. She's right. We need him to sign the divorce papers first. Once he's legally accepted all the debt, once he can't back out, then we drop the hammer. But what if the banks come after Mom? Sarah asked. If they think she knew about the fraud? They won't, Eleanor said, because we're going to get ahead of it. As soon as the divorce is final, we're going to every bank Bobby defrauded, and we're giving them this evidence. We're showing them that Dot was a victim too. They'll go after Bobby, not her. Sarah looked at her mom. Are you okay with this? With sending Dad to prison? Dot was quiet for a long moment. I've been thinking about Daniel, she finally said. Bobby's other son, the one he never claimed, the one he kept secret for 28 years. Bobby has spent Daniel's entire life being ashamed of him, hiding him, paying him off so he'd stay quiet and stay away. She looked directly into the camera. I'm not going to let Bobby keep pretending he's some kind of victim when this all falls apart. He made these choices. He forged my signature. He lied to banks. He embezzled from his own company, or let Tyler do it because he was too distracted to notice. Every single bit of this is consequences he earned. Okay, Sarah said. Then we wait. We let him sign, and then he faces what he's done. Dot finished. February 10th, 2024. Brennan's of Houston Amber's baby shower was the kind of event that got featured in society pages. 50 guests, mostly Bobby's business associates and their wives. Catering from one of Houston's fanciest restaurants. A cake shaped like a baby carriage that probably cost more than most people's monthly car payment. Ray Kowalski was there, disguised as one of the catering staff in a white jacket and black bow tie. He had a recording device in his pocket and a tiny camera built into his name tag. Bobby stood at the front of the room, arm around Amber, beaming like he'd won the lottery. I just want to thank everyone for coming, Bobby said. Amber and I are so excited to welcome our son in June. This is a new chapter for me, and I've never been happier. Amber, wearing a tight pink dress that showed off her baby bump, smiled and waved at the guests. She looked every bit the trophy girlfriend, young, beautiful, and expensive. But Ray was watching Tyler Davidson, who was standing near the bar, drinking whiskey like it was water. As the party went on, Ray positioned himself near a conversation between Tyler and one of Bobby's business partners, a guy named Frank Westwood. So how's Bobby really doing? Frank asked, keeping his voice low. I heard some rumors about cash flow problems. Tyler laughed. a harsh, bitter sound. Cash flow problems? Frank, the man is drowning. He's got maybe 6 weeks before the banks start foreclosure proceedings. Jesus. Does Amber know? Amber doesn't know shit. And neither does Bobby, really. The dumb bastard thinks he's going to restructure and bounce back. He doesn't realize the house is already gone. The company's gone. Everything's gone. Frank looked shocked. And you're his lawyer? I'm his lawyer until the divorce is final. After that? Tyler downed the rest of his drink. After that, I'm out. Got a nice little nest egg built up, and I'm taking my girl somewhere warm and far away from this mess. Your girl? I thought Amber was... Amber is whoever's paying her bills, Frank. Right now, that's Bobby. But it won't be for much longer. Ray got every word on tape. Later that night, Ray met with Dot and Eleanor at Eleanor's office. I've got Tyler on tape admitting he knows about the debt and didn't disclose it to Bobby properly, Ray said. I've got him admitting he's planning to run, and I've got him strongly implying that Amber's playing Bobby. Is that enough? Dot asked. For what we need? Yeah. It's enough to show that Tyler breached his fiduciary duty to his client. The Texas Bar Association is going to love this. Eleanor smiled. And when we add the paternity revelation... Wait, you confirmed it? Dot asked. Ray nodded. I've got a source at Women's Health Associates. Off the record, but reliable. Amber's baby daddy is definitely not Bobby. The timing doesn't work. She got pregnant in September, and Bobby didn't even meet her until October. So the baby is Tyler's, Eleanor said. Almost certainly, and neither Bobby nor Amber knows that we know. Dot leaned back in her chair. All the pieces were falling into place. March 4th, 2024, Harris County Family Court. The courtroom was smaller than Dot had expected. Not like the dramatic TV courtrooms with soaring ceilings and mahogany everywhere. This was just a regular room with fluorescent lights and cheap carpet. Judge Maria Rodriguez sat at the bench, looking over the settlement agreement. She was in her 50s, with sharp eyes that had seen every kind of divorce drama Houston had to offer. Bobby sat at the plaintiff's table with Tyler Davidson. Bobby wore his Tom Ford suit and his Rolex. He kept checking his phone, probably texting Amber who'd stayed home because she wasn't feeling well. Dot sat at the defendant's table with Eleanor. Dot wore her navy Sunday dress, the same one she'd worn to church for 12 years, the same one she'd wear again next week and the week after that. Sarah sat in the gallery, hands clenched in her lap. Mr. Sullivan, Judge Rodriguez said. Mrs. Hayes, I've reviewed your settlement agreement. This is unusually straightforward for a marriage of this length. My client and Mr. Hayes both want a clean break, Your Honor, Eleanor said. No drama, just closure. Very well. Judge Rodriguez looked at Bobby. Mr. Hayes, you're receiving the marital home located at 1247 Oak Ridge Drive, correct? Yes, Your Honor. Hayes Transport LLC and all associated business assets? Yes, Your Honor. The vacation property in Destin, Florida? Yes, Your Honor. Bobby was smiling now. Tyler looked bored, already mentally checked out. And Mrs. Hayes receives the 2015 Toyota Camry and $2,000 monthly spousal support for 10 years. That's correct, Your Honor, Eleanor said. Very well. Judge Rodriguez picked up her stamp. Before I finalize this, I need to make sure both parties understand what they're agreeing to. Mr. Hayes, you are accepting all marital liabilities and debts associated with the assets you're receiving. Do you understand that? Tyler barely looked up from his phone. Yes, Your Honor. Standard clause. Mr. Hayes, I asked you, not your attorney. Do you personally understand that you are accepting responsibility for all debts associated with these properties? Bobby nodded, still smiling. Yes, Your Honor. I understand. And you've had adequate time to review the financial disclosures? We waived financial discovery, Your Honor, Tyler interjected. Both parties agreed. Judge Rodriguez gave Tyler a long look. Counselor, I'm aware. I'm asking if your client understands what he's signing. I do, Bobby said. It's all good, Your Honor. Can we wrap this up? I've got a business meeting at 2. Judge Rodriguez stamped the document. The sound echoed in the quiet courtroom. This divorce is finalized. You're both free to go. Bobby stood up immediately, shaking Tyler's hand. Good job, man. Drinks later? Sure thing, Tyler said, though Ray's investigation suggested he'd be emptying his office later that afternoon. Dot stood up slowly. Eleanor put a hand on her arm. Wait for it, Eleanor whispered. Bobby and Tyler were almost to the door when Eleanor spoke up. Your Honor, if I may, I'd like to submit the full financial disclosure for the record, just to ensure everything is properly documented. Judge Rodriguez looked surprised, but nodded. Proceed. Eleanor pulled out a thick folder and handed copies to the judge and to Tyler. This is the complete accounting of all marital liabilities as of today's date. Primary mortgage on 1,247 Oak Ridge Drive, $1,247,000. Currently 5 months past due. Home equity line of credit, $851,000. 7 months past due. Business loan with Bank of America, secured by Hayes Transport LLC and the marital home, $2,105,000. In default. Various personal loans and credit lines, $1,044,000. Total marital debt, $5,247,832.19, all of which Mr. Hayes has just agreed to assume, solely and completely. The room went dead silent. Bobby's face drained of color. He turned to look at Tyler, who was frantically flipping through the disclosure documents. "What the fuck is this?" Bobby said, his voice rising. "Tyler, what the fuck is this?" "Your Honor," Tyler started, but his voice cracked. "You knew?" Bobby shouted at Dot. "You fucking knew about this, and you didn't say anything?" Judge Rodriguez banged her gavel. "Mr. Hayes, control yourself or I'll have you removed." Bobby ignored her. He lunged toward Dot's table, but the bailiff stepped in his way. 40 years, Bobby screamed. 40 fucking years and this is how you repay me? You vindictive bitch! Mr. Hayes, Judge Rodriguez stood up. One more outburst and you'll be held in contempt. Eleanor stood calmly. Your Honor, everything in this disclosure was available to Mr. Hayes and his counsel. They chose to waive financial discovery. They chose not to investigate. The settlement agreement clearly states that whoever receives an asset receives its associated liabilities. My client has done nothing improper. Tyler finally found his voice. Your Honor, we were told there were some minor debts, but nothing like this. You were told nothing, Eleanor interrupted. Because you didn't ask. You assumed. And your client signed based on those assumptions. Judge Rodriguez looked at Tyler with something like disgust. Counselor, did you or did you not advise your client to waive financial discovery? Yes. And did you review the settlement agreement before your client signed it? Yes, but I didn't realize. You didn't realize that all marital liabilities might include substantial debt in a 40-year marriage involving a multi-million-dollar business? Judge Rodriguez shook her head. That's malpractice, Counselor. You might want to call your insurance company. Bobby had collapsed into a chair, his head in his hands. The bailiff stood nearby, ready to intervene if he tried anything else. The divorce is finalized, Judge Rodriguez said. The settlement stands. Mr. Hayes is solely responsible for all marital debt. We're adjourned. She stood and left the courtroom. Dot gathered her purse and stood up. She walked past Bobby, who was still sitting with his head down. She paused for just a moment. I didn't do this to you, Bobby, she said quietly. You did it to yourself. I just stopped catching you when you fell. Then she walked out. In the hallway, Sarah was waiting. Mother and daughter hugged and Sarah was crying, but Dot's eyes were dry. Is it over? Sarah asked. Almost, Dot said, but not quite yet. Through the courtroom window they could see Bobby screaming at Tyler, his face red, spit flying. Tyler was backing away, holding up his hands, looking terrified. Now comes the part where everyone finds out who they really are, Dot said. And honey, it's not going to be pretty. March 5th, 2024, 8:07 a.m., Bobby Hayes sat in his car in the courthouse parking garage, hands shaking so badly he couldn't get the key in the ignition. $5 million. $5 million. His phone buzzed. Wells Fargo. Final notice. Your property at 1,247 Oak Ridge Drive is scheduled for foreclosure auction on March 28, 2024. Another buzz. Chase Bank. Your home equity account is in default. Full payment of $851,000 required immediately. Another. Bank of America. Hayes Transport LLC. Loan default notice. We will be seizing collateral assets beginning March 15th. Bobby's stomach lurched. He opened the car door just in time to vomit onto the concrete. When he finally made it home, his soon-to-be former home, Amber's car wasn't in the driveway. He'd been calling her for an hour, straight to voicemail every time. Inside, the house felt enormous and empty. 6,000 square feet of granite countertops and crown molding that was about to belong to Wells Fargo. He tried Amber again. Voicemail. Baby, it's me. Look, there's been a misunderstanding with the divorce thing. Some debts I didn't know about. But I can fix this, okay? I just need you to call me back. We can figure this out together. Love you. He hung up and immediately called Tyler. We need to fix this, Bobby said without preamble. There's got to be a way to reverse it. Contest it. Something. Tyler's voice was cold. Bobby, there's nothing to contest. You signed. You waived discovery. You assumed the debt. It's done. But you're my lawyer. You should have caught this. I gave you my professional advice. You chose to follow it. That's on you. That's on me? You son of a bitch, you told me this would be easy. You told me Dot would just roll over. I told you she'd likely accept the settlement. She did. Not my fault you didn't read what you were signing. Bobby's voice dropped to something dangerous. Tyler, I know about you and Amber. Silence on the other end. Yeah, Bobby continued. I'm not as stupid as you think. I've known for weeks. Saw the hotel receipts on your desk when I came by your office. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to fix this mess, or I'm going to make sure everyone knows you were fucking your client's girlfriend while you were supposed to be representing him. Tyler laughed. Actually laughed. Bobby, by the time anyone hears about that, I'll be long gone. And so will Amber. Good luck with your foreclosure. The line went dead. Bobby stood there, phone in hand, as the reality crashed over him like a wave. They'd been playing him. Both of them. The whole time. March 5th, 2024, 11:30 a.m., Bobby drove to Hayes Transport. His office. His kingdom. The thing he'd built from a single beat-up Peterbilt 35 years ago. But when he pulled into the parking lot, something was wrong. There were police cars. Federal agents with FBI on their windbreakers. Employees standing outside looking scared. Bobby's operations manager, a guy named Luis who'd been with him for 15 years, walked up to the car. Boss, thank God you're here. The feds showed up about an hour ago with a warrant. They're seizing financial records. Something about embezzlement and fraud. What? Who's been embezzling? Luis looked uncomfortable. They mentioned your lawyer, Tyler something. Said he's been skimming from the accounts. Bobby's vision went blurry. How much? They're saying maybe $300,000. Could be more. $300,000. On top of $5 million in debt. On top of everything else. Bobby got back in his car and drove. He didn't know where he was going. He just drove. March 5th, 2024, 9:47 p.m., Bobby ended up at a dive bar in Pasadena, the kind of place where nobody knew who he was and nobody cared. He ordered whiskey and kept ordering it. His phone rang. Daniel, his son, his secret. Bobby almost didn't answer, but something made him. Danny? Bobby slurred. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Dad? Daniel's voice was cautious. Are you okay? You sound... I'm fine. Great. Never better. Hey, I need a favor, though. I need to borrow some money. Just for a few weeks until... Dad, I can't lend you money. I'm a teacher. I make $48,000 a year. But I've been sending you $15,000 a month for years. You must have some saved up, right? There was a long pause. I do have savings. For my future kids. For their college fund. Not for you. Danny, please. I'm your father. I need help. You're not my father. Daniel's voice was quiet but firm. A father shows up. A father is there for birthdays and graduations and regular Tuesday nights. You're just the guy who sends checks and feels guilty about it. So no, I'm not giving you my kids' college fund to fix whatever mess you made. You ungrateful little shit, I've been supporting you for 28 years. Daniel hung up. Bobby ordered another whiskey. March 6th, 2024. Tyler's apartment, River Oaks. Tyler Davidson was packing. One suitcase, just essentials. Everything else he'd leave behind. The lease was in his name anyway. Let the landlord deal with it. His phone buzzed. Amber. Baby, I'm scared. Bobby keeps calling. What if he finds out? Tyler typed back. He won't. Meet me at the airport tomorrow. 2 p.m. United flight to Grand Cayman. Don't bring anything suspicious. We'll buy new stuff when we get there. What about the baby? Tyler paused. The baby. His baby. Not Bobby's. They'd done the math 100 times. We'll figure it out. Together, I promise. He looked around the apartment one last time. The expensive furniture he'd bought on credit. The law degree on the wall from SMU. 7 years of busting his ass to build a reputation, all about to go up in smoke. But $285,000 in an offshore account made a lot of things okay. There was a knock at the door. Tyler froze. It was almost midnight. Who the hell? Another knock. Harder this time. Tyler Davidson? FBI. Open up. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck, fuck, fuck. Tyler looked at the suitcase, then at the window. He was on the 4th floor. Not survivable. The door crashed open. 3 agents, guns drawn. Tyler Davidson, you're under arrest for wire fraud, embezzlement, and money laundering. You have the right to remain silent. As they cuffed him, Tyler saw his phone on the counter. One last text from Amber. I'm sorry, baby. I told them everything. They said I could get immunity if I cooperated. I have to think about the baby. I hope you understand. Tyler started laughing, a harsh, bitter sound that made the FBI agents exchange glances. Of course she did. Of course she fucking did. March 6th, 2024. George Bush, Intercontinental Airport, Amber Rose Patterson. Not Rose, never Rose, that was just her cocktail waitress name, sat in an interrogation room at the airport's federal facility. She'd been there for 3 hours. Special Agent Jennifer Ortiz sat across from her, a digital recorder running. Let's go over this one more time, Ms. Patterson. When did you first meet Tyler Davidson? Amber sighed. She'd told this story 4 times already. Last September, I was working at Monarch, this bar downtown. Tyler was a regular. Good tipper. We started talking. One thing led to another. And when did you meet Robert Hayes? October. Tyler brought him to the bar, introduced us. Said Bobby was rich, going through a midlife crisis, and ripe for the picking. Amber wiped her eyes. The tears were real this time. Tyler said we'd get Bobby to fall for me, wait for the divorce, take half his assets, and split. I needed the money. I've got priors for shoplifting. Nobody was going to hire me for anything legit. This seemed like a way out. But then you found out Bobby was broke. Yeah. Tyler figured it out in December when he started actually looking at the finances. That's when he came up with Plan B, embezzle from Bobby's company, pin it on bad bookkeeping, and bail before anyone noticed. And the baby? Amber's hand went to her stomach. It's Tyler's. I'm 15 weeks along. Bobby thinks it's his because I told him it was, but the math doesn't work. Bobby and I didn't sleep together until November. I got pregnant in September. Agent Ortiz leaned back. Ms. Patterson, you understand that what you did, fraud, conspiracy, these are serious crimes. I know, but Tyler was the mastermind. I just went along with it. And now I'm pregnant and alone and Bobby's going to kill me when he finds out. Bobby Hayes isn't going to touch you. He's got his own legal problems to worry about. Agent Ortiz slid a paper across the table. This is an immunity agreement. You testify against Tyler Davidson, you tell us everything you know about the embezzlement scheme, and we'll drop all charges against you. You walk away clean. Amber grabbed the pen before Agent Ortiz even finished talking. March 8th, 2024. Houston Police Department, Financial Crimes Division. Detective Sarah Bennett. 45, 15 years in financial crimes. 0 patience for rich men who thought they were above the law. Looked at the evidence spread across her desk. Forged signatures, bank documents, a very detailed report from a forensic document analyst. And sitting across from her, a nervous-looking woman in her 40s. Miss Hayes, Detective Bennett said. You're Robert Hayes' daughter? Yes, ma'am. Sarah Hayes. She slid her business card across the desk. I'm a software engineer at Microsoft, but I used to work in financial systems. I know what I'm looking at here. Bennett examined the signature comparisons. The differences were subtle but clear once you knew what to look for. Your mother didn't sign these loan applications. No, ma'am. My father did. He forged her signature to get loans totaling nearly $3 million. And you're sure you want to press charges? This is your father we're talking about. Sarah's jaw tightened. My father stole my mother's identity. He committed fraud. He deserves to face the consequences. Bennett nodded slowly. All right, I'll need your mother to come in and give a statement. We'll need the original documents from the banks. And I'll need you to understand, this is a felony. If we pursue this, your father is looking at prison time. I understand. Give me 48 hours. I'll coordinate with the DA's office. March 10th, 2024. Hayes residence. Bobby was drinking coffee when the doorbell rang at 7 a.m. He opened it to find 2 Houston PD detectives and a woman in a dark suit. Robert Hayes? Yeah? I'm Detective Bennett. This is Detective Rodriguez. We have a warrant for your arrest. She held up the paperwork. You're being charged with 2 counts of forgery, identity theft, and bank fraud. Bobby's coffee mug slipped from his hand and shattered on the tile floor. What? No, there's been a mistake. Turn around, please. Hands behind your back. As they cuffed him, Bobby saw neighbors gathering on their lawns. Mrs. Chen from next door, who Dot used to have over for tea. The Johnsons from across the street, whose kids Bobby had given summer jobs at the trucking company. All of them watching as Robert Hayes, pillar of the community, was led to a police car in handcuffs. April 15th, 2024. Federal Courthouse, Houston. Tyler Davidson's trial lasted 3 days. The evidence was overwhelming. Bank records showing systematic transfers from Hayes Transport's accounts to Tyler's personal accounts, then to offshore holdings. Emails between Tyler and Amber discussing the plan. Text messages about fleeing to Costa Rica. And Amber herself, 8 months pregnant now, testifying in exchange for immunity. Tyler told me we'd take Bobby for everything, Amber said from the witness stand. He said Bobby was stupid and arrogant and wouldn't notice if we skimmed a little here and there. He said by the time anyone figured it out, we'd be gone. Tyler's public defender, Tyler couldn't afford his own lawyer anymore, tried to paint Amber as the real mastermind, but nobody was buying it. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes, guilty on all counts. Judge Patricia Simmons didn't mess around at sentencing. Mr. Davidson, you betrayed your client, you betrayed your profession, and you betrayed the trust placed in attorneys. You will serve 8 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. You will pay full restitution of $285,000, and you are hereby permanently disbarred from practicing law in the state of Texas. Tyler showed no emotion. He was already dead inside. Amber left the courthouse through a side exit, her hand on her belly. A reporter caught up with her. Ms. Patterson, what are you going to do now? I'm having a girl, Amber said quietly. I'm going to have her, and I'm going to give her up for adoption, to a family who can actually take care of her, because I clearly can't take care of anyone, not even myself. Then she got into a waiting car and disappeared. June 3rd, 2024, Harris County Criminal Courthouse. Bobby's trial was shorter. The evidence was clear-cut. Forged signatures, bank fraud, identity theft. His court-appointed attorney, a young guy named Jack Morrison, fresh out of law school, did his best. Your Honor, Mr. Hayes was under significant financial stress. He wasn't thinking clearly. He believed that in a marriage of 40 years, what was his wife's was his and vice versa. He didn't intend to defraud anyone. The prosecutor, Assistant DA Michelle Torres, wasn't having it. Your Honor, Mr. Hayes deliberately forged his wife's signature on loan applications, totaling nearly $3 million. He used those funds to support an affair, to make bad investments, and to maintain a lifestyle he couldn't afford. This wasn't a mistake. It was calculated fraud. Dot testified. She wore her Sunday dress again. Mrs. Hayes, Torres asked, did you give your husband permission to sign your name on these documents? No, I did not. Did you know about these loans? Not until November of last year. How did you feel when you discovered what he'd done? Dot looked directly at Bobby. He couldn't meet her eyes. I felt betrayed, not just by the affair. I'd already made peace with that, but by the fact that he risked everything we'd built together. 40 years of work, 40 years of sacrifice, and he gambled it all away without even asking me. The jury took 4 hours, longer than Tyler's, but not because they thought Bobby was innocent. The forewoman told reporters later they just wanted to make sure they got it right. Guilty on all counts. Judge William Bradford was 70 years old and had been on the bench for 30 years. He'd seen men like Bobby before. Mr. Hayes, you built a successful business from nothing. You employed over 100 people. You were, by all accounts, a pillar of your community, and you threw it all away because you wanted to feel young again. Because you wanted to impress a girl half your age. Because your ego couldn't handle the idea that you were getting old. This court sentences you to 5 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. You will pay restitution of $2.1 million to the affected financial institutions. All remaining assets will be liquidated to satisfy your debts. Furthermore, I am ordering that any future earnings, inheritances, or windfalls will go directly toward your restitution obligations. Mr. Hayes, you had everything, and you destroyed it. I hope you use your time in prison to figure out why. Bobby stood there, handcuffs already on his wrists, and for the first time since this all started, he cried. Not tears of remorse, tears of self-pity. In the hallway afterward, Dot stood with Sarah and Eleanor. Bobby was led past them by corrections officers on his way to processing. He stopped when he saw Dot. Dot, I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. I never meant for any of this. Bobby, Dot interrupted. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. I forgive you. Bobby looked up, hope flickering in his eyes. But forgiving you doesn't mean I'm going to save you. You made your choices. You dug this hole, and now you're going to sit in it for a while and think about how you got there. Please. Goodbye, Bobby. She walked away. She didn't look back. 6 months later, Dorothy Hayes lived in a small townhouse now. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, a little patio with a garden. It cost $1,200 a month to rent, less than what Amber's luxury condo had cost. The restitution from Bobby's criminal case had given her back $1.4 million. She'd put most of it into conservative investments, lived on the dividends, kept her expenses low. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening, she taught a class at St. Catherine's. Financial literacy for women over 50. It was free. The church provided the space. Tonight, 32 women showed up. They sat in folding chairs in the parish hall, notepads in hand. Good evening, ladies, Dot said, standing at the front. My name is Dorothy Hayes. 6 months ago, I finalized a divorce from a man who'd forged my signature, stolen my identity, and left me with nothing but an old car and a lot of anger. The women leaned forward. Today I'm financially independent. I have peace. I have purpose. And I have something I didn't have for 40 years. Freedom. She clicked to the first slide of her PowerPoint presentation. Tonight I'm going to teach you how to read a bank statement, how to spot financial abuse, how to protect your credit, and most importantly, how to make sure that no matter what happens in your marriage, you can walk away if you need to. For the next 2 hours, Dot taught. She showed them how to check credit reports, how to ensure they were on the deed to their house, how to have a bank account their husband didn't know about, just in case. This isn't about being paranoid, Dot said. It's about being prepared, because hoping your husband won't betray you is not a financial plan. At the end of class, a woman in her 60s approached. She had tears in her eyes. Mrs. Hayes, I just want to say thank you. I checked my credit report like you suggested last week. I found out my husband opened 3 credit cards in my name, $20,000 in debt I didn't know about. What did you do? Dot asked. I filed a police report. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow, and I'm going to be okay, because of you. Dot hugged her. No, honey, you're going to be okay because of you. You did the hard part. You looked at the truth instead of hiding from it. Saturday, October 26th, 2024. Dot was working in her little garden when she heard a car pull up. She looked up to see a tall young man getting out of a Toyota Corolla. He had Bobby's eyes, but where Bobby's eyes had become hard and calculating over the years, this young man's were kind. Mrs. Hayes? He called out. Dot stood up, brushing dirt off her gardening gloves. You must be Daniel. Yes, ma'am. I hope it's okay that I just showed up. Sarah gave me your address. I should have called first. Nonsense. Come on in. I just made iced tea. They sat on Dot's small patio. Daniel was nervous, his hands fidgeting with his car keys. I wanted to meet you, Daniel said. I know this is weird, and I know I'm basically a stranger, but Sarah said you'd asked about me, and I wanted to know my family, or what's left of it. Tell me about yourself, Dot said gently. Daniel talked about growing up in Austin with his mom, Linda, about how Bobby would visit maybe once or twice a year, always promising to come more often, never following through, about his mom working 3 jobs to keep them afloat, even though Bobby sent money. She never badmouthed him, Daniel said. My mom, she could have told me what a deadbeat he was, but she didn't. She just said he was complicated and busy and that he loved me in his own way. She sounds like a good woman. She was the best. When she got sick, cancer, Bobby didn't even come to see her. Sent flowers to the funeral. That was it. Dot reached across and took Daniel's hand. I'm sorry. For all of it. I didn't know you existed until a few months ago. If I had, Sarah told me. She told me everything. Daniel looked at Dot with those kind, sad eyes. I don't blame you, Mrs. Hayes. You were a victim too. Call me Dot. Please, Mrs. Hayes makes me feel old. Daniel smiled. It was a nice smile. Okay, Dot. They talked for hours. About teaching, about books, about Daniel's girlfriend Rachel, who was also a teacher. About Sarah and how weird it was to suddenly have a sister. I'm teaching a financial literacy class at the church, Dot said. Tuesday and Thursday evenings. You're welcome to come. I know teachers don't make much. I could show you how to make your money stretch. I'd like that, Daniel said. And maybe I could help? I teach English, but I'm pretty good at explaining complicated stuff in simple ways. I'd love that. As Daniel was leaving, he turned back. Can I ask you something? Why didn't you visit Bobby in prison? Sarah said she asked, and you refused. Dot thought about it. Because Bobby needs to face what he's done without anyone making excuses for him. He spent 40 years having people, me mostly, clean up his messes. I'm not doing it anymore. He needs to sit in that cell and figure out who he is when nobody's there to save him. Daniel nodded slowly. That makes sense. It's harsh, but it makes sense. Life is harsh sometimes, but we survive. After Daniel left, Dot went back to her garden. She planted bulbs, tulips and daffodils that would bloom in the spring. New life, new beginnings. November 2024. Sarah called on a Sunday afternoon. Mom, I'm thinking about visiting Dad at Huntsville. It's been 8 months. He's written me letters. That's your choice, honey. He's your father. Do you want to come with me? Dot didn't even hesitate. No. Mom, Sarah, listen to me. Your father is serving time for crimes he committed. Against me, against banks, against every person who trusted him. I've forgiven him. Truly I have. But forgiveness doesn't mean I owe him my presence. It doesn't mean I owe him comfort or absolution or anything else. Don't you think he's suffered enough? No, I think he's suffering exactly as much as he needs to. Prison isn't just punishment, Sarah. It's also consequence. Your father needs to learn that his actions have consequences. Real ones. That last long after the initial fun wears off. Sarah was quiet for a moment. You're right, I'm sorry. Don't apologize. You're allowed to want a relationship with your father. That's separate from me. You go visit him if you want. Tell him I hope he's well. Tell him I meant it when I said I forgive him. But also tell him I'm happy now. Happier than I've been in years. And I didn't need his money or his house or his status to get there. Sarah went to visit a Bobby 2 weeks later. She told Dot about it afterward. Bobby had aged. His hair was completely gray now. He couldn't color it in prison. He'd lost weight, looked smaller somehow. He asked about Dot. She's doing great, Dad, Sarah had told him. She's teaching classes, helping women. She's got this whole new life. Bobby had cried. I miss her. I miss our life. You destroyed that life, Dad. All by yourself. I know. If I could go back, but you can't. So stop thinking about what you'd do differently and start thinking about who you're going to be when you get out. 2 years later, Dorothy Hayes woke up at 6:30 on a Sunday morning. She made coffee, sat on her little patio, and watched the sunrise paint the Houston sky in shades of orange and pink. She was 67 years old. Her hair was completely gray now. She'd stopped coloring it. She had laugh lines around her eyes. Her hands showed the age spots of someone who'd lived a full life. She'd never felt more beautiful. Her financial literacy classes had grown. She now taught 4 nights a week and had trained 3 other women to teach additional sections. They'd helped over 200 women in the past 2 years. Women who'd discovered hidden debts. Women who'd left abusive marriages. Women who'd learned to value themselves beyond their roles as wives and mothers. Sarah visited every other weekend. She'd gotten engaged to a software engineer she met at a conference. The wedding was planned for June. Daniel came for dinner every Sunday. He'd proposed to Rachel last month. They were planning a small ceremony in Austin. Daniel had asked Dot to be there. You're the closest thing to a mom I've got now, he'd said. Dot had cried. Bobby had been released on parole 3 months ago. He lived in a small apartment near Galveston, working at a warehouse loading trucks. It was honest work. Hard work. The kind of work he used to do before he got too big for it. He'd written Dot a letter. She'd read it once, then put it in a drawer. Dear Dot, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm grateful for it anyway. You were right about everything. I destroyed our life because I was weak and vain and stupid. I think about you every day. About the girl who made sandwiches in a trailer. About the woman who kept our books and raised our daughter and built an empire with me. I'm sorry I forgot how to see you. I'm sorry I took you for granted. I hope you're happy. You deserve to be happy. Love always, Bobby. She didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. Sunday morning, St. Catherine's Church, Dot opened her closet and looked at her dresses. She had new ones now. Not expensive, just newer. But she reached for the navy floral dress, the one with the little pearl buttons, her Sunday dress, the one she'd worn to court that day in March 2 years ago. She put it on. It still fit perfectly. At church, Father O'Brien smiled when he saw her. Dorothy, you're glowing today. I'm happy, Father, for the first time in longer than I can remember. I'm truly happy. God is good. Yes, he is. After Mass, a woman approached her. Late 50s, well-dressed, nervous. Mrs. Hayes, my name is Jennifer. I've been attending your classes for the past month. I just wanted to say thank you. I found out my husband had been hiding credit card debt, over $200,000. Because of your class, I knew what to look for. I filed for divorce last week, and I didn't sign away my rights. Dot smiled. Good for you, Jennifer. You saved yourself. You showed me how. No, honey. You did the hard part. I just held up a mirror. Dot sat in her little garden, a cup of tea in her hands. On her phone, she scrolled through photos. Sarah and her fiancé laughing at a restaurant. Daniel and Rachel holding hands at some park in Austin. A selfie of all three of them, Sarah, Daniel, and Dot, from last Sunday's dinner. A family. Not the one she'd started with, but a real family nonetheless. Her phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. Mom, Daniel and I were talking. We want to do something special for your 68th birthday next month. What do you want? Dot thought about it. What did she want? For 40 years she'd wanted Bobby to see her, to value her, to choose her. Now, she typed back. Honestly, I just want another Sunday dinner with you two. That's all I need. 3 dots appeared. Then, you got it. Love you, Mom. Dot set down her phone and looked out at her garden. The tulips she'd planted were blooming, bright red and yellow against the green grass. New life from dormant bulbs. She thought about the girl she'd been at 25. Scared but hopeful, making sandwiches in a trailer, dreaming of 10 trucks someday. She thought about the woman she'd been at 65. Invisible, taken for granted, keeping the books for an empire that didn't value her. And she thought about the woman she was now, at 67. Free, purposeful, surrounded by people who chose to love her, not people who felt obligated to. Bobby had taken 40 years of her life, but he couldn't take her future. He couldn't take her dignity. He couldn't take her strength. She was 67 years old. She'd been betrayed, forged, lied to, and cast aside. And she'd never been stronger. Because she wasn't Bobby Hayes' wife anymore. She wasn't someone's victim. She was just Dorothy. Dorothy Marie Hayes. And Dorothy was enough. She took a sip of her tea, smiled at her garden, and whispered to herself, 40 years, but the rest is mine.